In the first two cases, the process eventually switches from the waiting state to the ready state and is then put back into the ready queue. A process continues this cycle until it terminates, at which time it is removed from all queues. See the figure. Now let us see schedulers. Schedulers are software which selects an available program to be assigned to CPU. A long-term scheduler or job scheduler selects a job from the job pool of secondary memory or disk and loads them into the memory. If more processes are submitted, then that can be executed immediately. Such processes will be in secondary memory. It runs infrequently and can take time to select the next process. The short-term scheduler or CPU scheduler selects job from memory and assigns the CPU to it. It must select the new process for CPU frequently. The medium-term scheduler selects the process in ready queue and reintroduced into the memory. Process can be described as either input output bound process spends more time during doing input output than computations. CPU bound process spends more time doing computations and few input output operations. An efficient scheduling system will select a good mix of CPU bound processes and input output bound processes. If the scheduler selects more input output bound processes, then input output queue will be full and ready queue will be empty. If the scheduler selects more CPU bound process, then ready queue will be full and input output queue will be empty. Time sharing system employ a medium term scheduler. It swaps out the process from a ready queue and swap in the process to ready queue. When system loads get high, this scheduler will swap one or more processes out of the ready queue for a few seconds in order to allow smaller, faster jobs to finish up quickly and clear the system. Advantages of a medium term scheduler: to remove process from memory and thus reduce the degree of multi-programming number of processes in memory. To make a proper mix of processes, CPU bound and input output bound. Now let us see context switching. The task of switching a CPU from one process to another process is called context switching. Context switch times are highly depend on hardware support, number of CPU registers. Whenever an interrupt occurs, hardware or software interrupt, the state of the currently running process is saved into the PCB and the state of the another process is restored from the PCB to the CPU. Context switch time is an overhead as the system does not do useful work while switching. Operation on processes. Demonstrate the operations of process creation and process termination in Unix. Process creation. A process may create several new processes. The creating process is called parent process and the new processes are called children of that process. Each of these new processes may in turn create other processes. Each process has a unique process ID. On a typical Solaris system, the process at the top of the tree is called shared process with PID of 0. The shared process creates several children processes in it. Page out and FS flush. Page out and FS flush are responsible for managing memory and file system. The init process with a PID of 1 serves as a parent process for all the user processes. A process will need certain resources: CPU, time, memory, files, input output devices to accomplish its task. When a process creates a sub process, the sub process may be able to obtain its resources in two ways: directly from the operating system. Sub process may take the resources of the parent process. The resource can be taken from parent into two ways. The parent may have to partition its resources among its children, share the resources among several children. There are two options for the parent process after creating the child. Wait for the child process to terminate and then continue execution. The parent makes a wait system call run concurrently with the child continuing to execute without waiting. Two possibilities for the address space of a child relative to the parent. The child may be an exact duplicate of the parent sharing the same program and data segments in memory. Each will have their own PCB including program counter, registers and PID. This is the behavior of the fork system call in Unix. The child process may have a new program loaded into its address space with all new code and data segments. This is the behavior of the span system call in Windows. See the code. In Unix OS, a child process can be created by fork system call. The fork system call, if successful, returns the PID of the child process to its parent and returns 0 to the child process. If failure, it returns -1 to the parent process. IDs of the current process or its direct parent can be accessed using the get PID and get PPID system calls respectively. The parent waits for the child process to complete with the wait system call. When the child process completes, the parent process resumes and completes its execution. See the figure in Windows. The child process is created using the function create process. The create process returns 1 if the child is created and returns 0 if the child is not created. Now let us see process termination. A process terminates when it finishes executing its last statement and asks the operating system to delete it by using the exit system call. All of the resources assigned to the process like memory, open files and input output buffers are deallocated by the operating system. A process can cause the termination of the another process by using appropriate system call. The parent process can terminate its child processes by knowing all of the PID of the child. A parent may terminate the execution of children for a variety of reasons, such as the child has exceeded its usage of resources it has been allocated, the task assigned to the child is no longer required, the parent is exciting and the operating system terminates all the children. This is called a cascading termination. Now let us see inter-process communication. What is inter-process communication? Explain types of IPC. Inter-process communication, inter-processes executing may be either cooperative or independent processes. Independent processes that cannot affect other processes or be affected by other processes executing in the system. Cooperating processes that can affect other processes or be affected by other processes executing in the system. Now let us see cooperation among processes are allowed for the following reasons. Information sharing. There may be several processes which need to access the same file, so the information must be accessible at the same time to all users. Computation speed up. Often a solution to a problem can be solved faster if the problem can be broken down into subtasks which are solved simultaneously, particularly when multiple processes are involved. Modularity. A system can be divided into cooperating modules and executed by sending information among one another. Convenience. Even a single user can work on multiple tasks by information sharing. Cooperating processes require some type of inter-process communication. This is allowed by two models: shared memory systems, message passing systems. Shared memory systems, message passing systems. A region of a memory is shared by communicating process in which the information is written and read, useful for sending large block of data. System call is used only to create shared memory. Message is sent faster as there are no system calls. Under the message passing points or message exchange is done among the processes by using objects useful for sending small data. System call is used during every read and write operation. Message is communicated slowly. Shared memory is faster once it is set up because no system calls are required and access occurs at normal memory speeds. Shared memory is generally preferable when large amounts of information must be shared quickly on the same computer. Message passing requires system calls for every message transfer and is therefore slower, but it is simpler to set up and works well across multiple computers. Message passing is generally preferable when the amount and or frequency of the data transfers is small. Shared memory systems. A region of shared memory is created within the address space of a process which needs to communicate other processes that needs to communicate using this shared memory. The form of data and position of creating shared memory area is decided by the process. Generally, a few messages must be passed back and forth between the cooperating processes first in order to set up and coordinate the shared memory access. The process should take care that the two processes will not write the data to the shared memory at the same time. Procedure producer consumer example using shared memory. This is a classic example in which one process is producing data and another process is consuming the data. The data is passed via an intermediary buffer shared memory. The producer puts the data to the buffer and the customer takes out the data from the buffer. A producer can produce one item while the consumer is consuming another item. The producer and consumer must be synchronized so that the consumer does not try to consume an item that has not yet been produced. In this situation, the consumer must wait until an item is produced. There are two types of buffers into which the information can be put: unbound buffer and bound buffer. With the unbound buffer, there is no limit on the size of the buffer and so on the data produced by the producer, but the consumer may have to wait for new items. With bounded buffer, as the buffer size is fixed, the producer has to wait if the buffer is full and the consumer has to wait if the buffer is empty. This example uses shared memory as a circular queue. The in and out are two pointers to the array. Note in the code below that only the producer changes in and only the consumer changes out. See the code here. Now let us see message passing systems. A mechanism to allow process communication without sharing the address space. It is used in distributed systems. Message passing system uses a system calls for send message and receive message. A communication link must be established between the cooperating processes before messages can be sent. There are three methods of creating the link between the sender and the receiver: direct or indirect communication, naming, synchronous or asynchronous communication, synchronization, automatic or explicit buffering. First is naming. Process that want to communicate must have a way to refer to each other. They can use either direct or indirect communication. Direct communication. The sender and the receiver must explicitly know each other's name. The syntax for send and receive functions are as follows: send p comma message, receive q comma message. Send a message to process p, receive a message from process q. Properties of communication link. A link is established automatically between every pair of the processes that wants to communicate. The processes need to know only each other's identity to communicate. A link is associated with exactly one pair of communicating processes. Between each pair there exists exactly one link. Types of addressing in direct communication system. Symmetric addressing. The above are described communication is symmetric communication. Here both the sender and the receiver processes have to name each other to communicate. Asymmetric addressing. Here only the sender name is mentioned but the receiving data can be from any system. Send p comma message, sends a message to process p. Receive id comma message, receives a message from any process. Disadvantages of the direct communication. Any changes in the identifier of a process may have to change the identifier in the whole system sender and receiver where the messages are sent and received. Indirect communication uses shared mailboxes or ports. A mailbox or port is used to send and receive messages. Mailbox is an object into which messages can be sent and received. It has a unique ID. Using this identifier, messages are sent and received. Two processes can communicate only if they have a shared mailbox. The send and the receive functions are send a comma message sends a message to mailbox A, receive a comma message receive a message from mailbox A. Properties of communication link. A link is established between a pair of processes only if they have a shared mailbox. A link may be associated with more than two processes. Between each pair of communicating processes, there may be any number of links. Each link is associated with one mailbox. A mailbox can be owned by the operating system. It must take steps to create a new mailbox, send and receive messages from a mailbox, delete mailboxes. Synchronization. The send and receive messages can be implemented as either blocking or non-blocking. Blocking synchronous sending process is blocked, waits until the message is received by receiving process or the mailbox. Non-blocking asynchronous sends the message and continues, doesn't wait. Blocking synchronous receive. The receiving process is blocked until a message is available. Non-blocking asynchronous receive receives the message without block. The received message may be a valid message or null. Buffering. When messages are passed, a temporary queue is created. Such queue can be of three capacities. Zero capacity. The buffer size is 0. Buffer doesn't exist. Messages are not stored in the queue. The senders must block until receivers accept the messages. Bound capacity. The queue is of a fixed size of n. Senders must block if the queue is full. After sending n bytes, the sender is blocked. Unbound capacity. The queue is of infinite capacity. The sender never blocks. See the question bank here. Questions. See the second page of questions. Question bank.